What was your impression? You had a physically trained with Mifune, yes? It was Sensei Mifune.
Yes.
What was your impression when you were physically had a chance to touch him and train, feel his moves?
Well, he was very good on timing, moving. Now, you have to remember, he was an old man then, very thin, very fragile. And it was amazing the way he moved. So we actually would cooperate with him. You don't give an old sensei a hard time. You're a young guy. That is not done. Okay? But he was really good technique, just as the way his moves. He was, and then he would work with one person and another, and it was remarkable, some of his stuff. Now, when he was younger, he was tough. And I know the stories about him. I mean, he was a fighter. Built solid. All these teachers that I saw now as older men, fragile men, were tough guys. They were built. They had really good muscle formations, very flexible, extremely flexible, and powerful. And I got to know later, my own experience and stuff, that when you're young, you just want to fight. You don't think a lot technically.
Yes,
You just want to win. Then as you mature, you begin to see the picture better. And you become more skillful and more knowledgeable. And then one other step, if you start to teach, you think differently.
Yes.
Because now, how do you explain somebody who knows nothing about judo? And the fact was, I didn't have that much explanation given to me. I did and I didn't. It was different.
So from your own experience, you start drawing conclusions and teaching.
Right. You have to, like one of my teachers said, you learn from others and then you develop your own. And Osawa, one of the greatest technicians there, was now 10th degree. He said, if you're in a dojo and 1,000 people are doing, say, Osotogari, there's 1,000 different Osotogaris. Osawa was one of the finest foot sweep technicians in Japan. He was amazing. You'd go up to him, bow, start to practice, just barely touch him, you'd be level. He took Anton Giesing, who was about 260 pounds, 6'5" or something, world champion, and he threw him 5 times in a row in free practice. And Osawa and Giesing laughs about it. He says, "Here I am, I'm so big," and he's like maybe 140 pounds, and he throws me 5 times. His timing was so remarkable in the way he controlled. He was like the ultimate. Initially, most people think it's the tricks, the techniques are the whole thing. But they don't work unless you can understand how to break a person's balance, the timing, and then when you do it, it's like you've done nothing. A good friend of mine, Carl Geis, was one of my students and then became one of the great teachers in America. And he studied with Osawa and Tomiki on the Aikido. He said, how do you teach someone to do nothing? Because if you're skilled, you just hit the right point, you hit the sweet spot and everything, it happens. And so what it is, you experience this feeling, and it's like dancing with a good dancer. You don't start with this foot goes here and there, and all of a sudden the 2 bodies become one, and then you just sort of, you do it. And judo there's a lot of that in judo. Judo is the feeling, and if you don't fight the other person
and go with
them, next thing you find yourself doing what they did, and you don't know why. It's hard to explain. And then you come to some conclusions, little things about your mind, your line of sight, how you look, how to grip, where to grip, how to take advantage of the other person's actions, rather than try to force your skill on them. Let them get their grip first, and then you take whatever's left over. See,
So you let them to commit.
let them commit. Yeah. Well, it's like of course, fortunately I didn't get in combat, but in combat, I would rather have the other person shoot at me first before I shoot at them. Now I know where they are.
Sure.
See, so it's the same idea. And I know today, judo as a sport, a lot of people are being taught, get out there, get your grip, and do this and do that, see? And I try to explain to some of the young players, well, if you think that's good, but if I had a knife in my hand, would you get your grip? And they say, well, no. I says, well, what do you think the other person's hands are?
Yeah.
See? So I did learn a type of skill of using the other person, and that's why some of the world champions in judo, when sometimes they're asked, what is your favorite technique? They'll say, I don't have a favorite one, it's whatever the other person lets me do. You know, so that's...
Who else did you meet over the years? Well, you traveled to different dojos in Japan. Who was the big names in,
well,
not just in judo, but in karate or other
well,
arts?
okay, there was, of course, in judo, there were many. There was Daigo, who became the head technical person for the Kodokan, he's 10th degree. And Daigo was two-time All Japan champion, and he was a big man. Osawa. Then the older teachers, there was a lot of them that came up before the war, were very powerful, like Mifune. There was Kawakami, one teacher, the one you see with the picture with the little whisker. When he was young, he was the captain of Meiji University judo and sumo team. He had a fantastic body. But his judo was really good, and but his mat work especially. There was a group of teachers that everybody was sort of a specialist. There was a specialist in mat work. Some were very good in arm bars, chokes. They tended to, and then with one technique, they can do it many ways.
Different ways of doing it.
So actually, you know, there's an infinite, or it's an endless amount of techniques. So, and I learned, like, my favorite throw initially was Osotogari. And the reason was, I'm basically taller than the Japanese. So to try to get underneath them is difficult. But Osotogari is like natural walking. See, so you step in, boom, and you can get that. But there's certain skills in order to make it work, because the normal, when you do it, they automatically will block you, push you away, and they have some very easy counters. But if you really know how to work it, you will not get countered, and you'll get them. And then you learn, well, if the person moves this way or that way, I can do Osotogari. Sure. And I learned, if they block my Osotogari, how I can turn it into another throw. See, so it becomes, it's many throws. And also, one of the ways I learned, I'll say advanced judo, okay, as a competitor, I would find somebody who was really good on something, and I would practice real hard with them. I'd go up and just ask them if we could practice. And then I would say, Sensei, please, can you show me your, in Japanese I would explain. I'd say, Sensei, would you show me your favorite throw? And now that I work real hard with him, he smiled, he likes me. Okay, he says, now, let me show you how I really make it work against another good person. And this is where you learn about really taking a person based on what they do. Most of the time, their throw is really a form of a counter. You're countering what the other person is doing, rather than direct, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
Well, it would be direct, say, somebody, for example, the one-arm shoulder throw, okay? Somebody is very powerful, he gives me the bars, okay? Big arms, strong, right? Well, just to do this, no way. So, you come over one arm, through the other, you lock his arms together, you drop underneath him, and you throw him. Different
Different ways.
each situation has a different thing. And each person's different. And you yourself are different. Because we're always being injured. Whatever it is, you're pulling a muscle, you know, something's happening to you because it was very competitive. And so every day you're different.
Did you have the chance to meet with Kimura?
No, but I met better than Kimura, his teacher.
Oh, okay.
That was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
His teacher was Usajima. Usajima was a legend. I'd heard stories about him. When I first trained at Dakotakan, I heard about him, but he, for some reason, was angry with Dakotakan or something. He wouldn't come to Dakotakan. He trained with the Imperial Police at the palace and the regular police.
Mm.
Then one day in Dakotakan, by this time I was already a third-degree black belt. I saw this sensei come out, and there was one section where the black belts lined up, and he sat out maybe 20, 30 feet by himself, just sat back. And everybody was quiet. They were staring at him. He was a nice-looking fellow. He looked almost Eurasian, very strong-looking, white hair. And Japanese black belt would come to him, said, "Onegaishimasu," and he'd go, "No." Another one would come, "No." Pretty soon, Godans, 5th degrees, were coming to him. "Sensei, can we practice?" He'd say, "No." So I thought,
You have nothing to lose.
I said, well, I would play, you know, we all played games with each other.
Yeah.
The Japanese would be like dumb, they don't speak English. I would be dumb, I don't speak Japanese. We're not stupid. Okay? So I thought I would be a dumb American, a dumb foreigner. And so I went in front of him and I said, "Sensei, onegaishimasu." And he turns his body. And I swing around in front of him. "Sensei, onegaishimasu." And so he turns his body the other way. And I swing around in there. "Sensei, onegaishimasu." Now, the whole Kodokan is quiet. You can hear a pin drop. Everybody in the balcony, everybody's staring. So he looks around.
He wanted to teach you a lesson, probably.
He looks at me and says, "Okay." As soon as he catches my gi, I said, "Oh my God, what is this?" The power I felt him. So he comes because you throw, boom, he throws me, boom, down on the ground. And I thought, oh my God, this is Usajima, the guy I heard so much about. I have to fight till I die or he lets me go. So I would struggle and on, and he'd pick me up and throw me again and play with me on the mat. And I fought as hard as I could, and then finally he lets me go. All right. I ended up living. About 2 weeks later, he shows up again. Now you have to remember, we're always, I said, every day you're different. So you're always recovering from some injury.
Sure.
And that wasn't a good day for me anyways, I have to say. Not that, of course, not that I could beat this man up. 2 weeks later, I'm in very good shape. He comes. I go up to him, and he practices with me. He cannot throw me. I can't throw him either. But we're trying. I never defend. At that stage in my judo, I made up my mind, I'll never defend. I just go to win. All right? But by being that way, people couldn't throw me. And I had this business ability to have shizentai, natural, mentally and physically. So I was able to react when people did things. So we worked out real hard, and then we go on the mat, and he comes at me, and I block him. He can't get me. So he smiles. He says, "Very good." So he starts to give me a lesson. I cannot remember what the lesson was, but he really liked me. I could see it, his face, the smile, and he wanted to show me some things. Other people would come over to watch. He'd say, "Go away, go away." He just wanted me. So that was Kimura's teacher. I met one 5th degree black belt who had scars on his face. We said, "Oh, what happened to you? Was it the war?" He says, no, Usajima. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, we were training, you know, and Usajima came to me to practice, and I said, Sensei, scaretta. Scaretta means I am tired. Usajima said, scaretta, grabbed me and threw me out the window. That's how I got the scars. So Usajima was a legend. So I didn't meet Kimura, but I met his teacher. Okay.